Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday and welcome to the Nourished Thriving Show. I'm Katie Lovett, registered dietitian and owner of Nourish and Thrive Nutrition Counseling. And I'm your host tonight, and I'm really glad that you're here. I am going to be monitoring comments. So if you guys have any questions throughout the show, please add them into the comments and I will do my best to answer them. And so for those of you guys who met with us last week or who joined in last week, know that Haley was going to come on today and talk about our use of continuous glucose monitors. She and I have been doing an experiment for the last couple of weeks, trying them out. She has unfortunately had a family emergency come up. So please keep Haley's family, Haley and her family in your thoughts and prayers. And hopefully she can join us sometime soon and we can have that conversation because it's definitely a conversation worth having. But I'm excited about our conversation that we're going to have tonight. I have a really, I think, great show mapped out for you guys. I spend a lot of my day talking to real people about nutrition, whether it's my patients or my children, or talking with Haley about her patients. And then there's, anytime anyone finds out I'm a registered dietitian, they have a lot of questions for me. And sometimes, I've said this before, I really just don't consume a lot of social media. I don't have time for that in this phase of my life. And I sometimes forget how absolutely wild the internet can be. I live in a little bit of a curated bubble. I was talking with Haley about this last night. I just forget sometimes. I don't spend hours scrolling wellness TikTok. I think there's like a big name for that, right? Like wellness talk or health talk or I don't know, something. Drop me a comment if you know what it is. But every once in a while I see something or a patient will ask me something and I'm like, wait a minute. Are people actually doing this? Is this really like what what people are trusting and following online? And they are. And so we're going to unpack some of that tonight. We're talking about why wellness culture is confusing and confusing to people. And I like to think of myself as being a little bit of a voice of reason in complete chaos. And so if you like a nice voice of reason, someone who's not super hyper reactive, I've got you. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to Eclipse Pain Network's channel. We have some really cool hosts and really cool videos up, so you don't want to miss any of it. And it also helps us reach more people who need a voice of reason in their lives as well and not get sucked into wellness TikTok crazy trends. The hard part is a lot of these trends sound healthy. And sometimes like the things that people tell me that they're doing are actually things that sometimes I recommend to patients. But a lot of the time they're either just not helping anybody do anything, they're ineffective. Sometimes they can create some anxiety around health and wellness, or make nutrition way more complicated than it needs to be. Or they can be slightly manipulative, and maybe people have a product that they're trying to sell or a service that they're trying to sell, and they're able to make a very strong argument around a certain topic or a certain issue that is an issue that may be partly right, but it can be missing the bigger picture or easily taken out of context or just be completely overdone. So it's not attractive what I'm talking about, right? It doesn't suck us in. And we're going to talk about some of the psychology of why it does that later in this show. I'm not a psychologist, but some of the common sense thought processes of why this happens and why it works, right? Why this kind of marketing works. Hey, Lugnut, thanks for joining tonight. Thanks for saying hi. So I thought it would be fun to talk through some of these specific trends that either patients have brought to me in the past or that I've happened to see online, or just some perceptions that people have brought to me. Or, one thing that I really hate doing is someone will come to me and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I've been working on my nutrition, I've been making these changes, and I've been eating X." And I'm like, "Oh, that's actually not any better, but you're putting forth all this effort." And I hate saying that it's not better, but it's not. So we're going to talk about some of those and why that is tonight. Lugnut wants to know ups and downs about rice. Could you give me your opinion on rice? Yes. I will do that. That would like fit right in here with some of the trends that we're talking about. Any other like trendy things help unbubble me from my mom of kids, business owner, dietitian bubble. You guys, if y'all have any other trends you want me to like get my reaction to, drop them in the comments. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is healthy foods that people tend to overconsume or think that are healthy, but they're actually maybe not healthy. So the first one that we're going to talk about is organic junk food. I'm sure you guys have seen this. I don't have a picture of this one, but I do have pictures of some of the things we're going to talk about. So like organic gummies, like the fruit gummies, gluten-free cookies, gluten-free, is so much more available now, which is so great for people who genuinely do need to avoid gluten or have celiac disease or something like that, because it allows them to have fun foods in their life still. Or, organic chips, stuff like that. But, organic cookies or gluten-free cookies, they're still cookies, right? It's not magically a health food now. Just because something is organic doesn't mean that it's like a food with no breaks, right? That we can just eat unlimited amounts of and pat ourselves on the back because it's healthy. In fact, if you compare nutrition facts panels, a lot of the time it's exactly the same. Like you may not, if you didn't know which one you were looking at, you may not be able to distinguish one from the other. So, organic isn't necessarily unlimited. Gluten-free is not healthy all the time. And so, it's not necessarily bad. This is typically what I would choose for my own family. So if I'm going to buy gummies for my kids, I'm probably going to opt more for the organic kind. There's one that's like I'm going to say a name and it's wrong. Is it Black Forest? I don't know. It's like green and blue ombre packaging. We don't buy them often, but when we do, I do tend to opt for those because they are typically made with, more like natural ingredients. The ingredient list is normally shorter. Sometimes they're sweetened with fruit juice, which can have maybe a slightly lower glycemic index, less of an effect on blood sugar, and stuff like that. But organic food, gluten-free food, there's no limit on the amount of sugar in these products. There's no mandatory, ingredient list limit. It's still a fun food, but it can be a smarter fun food in some ways. It's often still an ultra processed food, which we're hearing a lot about in the media lately. So I'm not saying never eat them. I'm just saying don't think that just because something is organic or natural or gluten-free, that it's going to be healthy or, something that you can just eat unlimited amounts of. And we can actually talk a little bit about my experience in the food industry with this too, because I actually labeled food. I wrote nutrition facts and ingredient statements on foods in a past career life, and learned a lot about regulations around food and how food labels are regulated. And there's some things that are regulated, but some things that just aren't. So gluten-free, organic, both of those do have pretty strict regulations. We've talked about this in past episodes before, but things like natural, it really doesn't have like a specific definition. There was actually a lawsuit that Frito-Lay went through back in like early 2000s, because they were claiming natural on like their Lay's classic potato chips. And some, like, I think some of the other like Lay's brands and stuff, some of those stuff, they got sued for using the word natural on their packaging. And it was like potato chips, oil and salt, or potatoes, oil and salt on the ingredient statement. And whatever seasoning, if it was a flavored one. And I don't remember the exact specifics or what the claimant was complaining about exactly, or what their complaint was, but it was something about they were misled by the term natural. And so it did lead to Frito-Lay kind of defining what they mean by natural on the front of the labels. So now you might see like no artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives underneath that claim. But that's not actually an FDA regulation. That's just more like a litigation concern for potential misinterpretation by consumers. So that's kind of the first one that I wanted to mention, was the organic stuff. Protein bars as meal replacements. This is an interesting one. And it's really interesting actually, because I saw some of this happen to me with my continuous glucose monitor the last couple of weeks. I don't eat a ton of bars. I don't like relying on them as on like a day-to-day basis. But there are times, like I've got 3 kids. I run a business. I'm in my car probably 3 hours every day driving kids around and just seeing patients. And so some days I don't have an opportunity to eat lunch. And so I will grab a bar in the car, on my way to pick up kids. I'm just like everyone else. We've all got the same 24 hours in a day, right? Have you guys seen like the 21-year-old Instagram influencers saying that I can do all this stuff, you can too. We have the same 24 hours. It's not the same 24 hours, but we do have 24 hours. But I had a pretty balanced protein bar, not super high in calories. It would not qualify technically as an entire meal, but it was the best I could do in that moment. Pretty balanced macronutrients, so fat, carbohydrate, and protein. And I had a huge blood sugar spike. I'm not going to like share any more details because I really want me and Haley to be able to share that with you guys whenever we do our CGM episode. But not all protein bars are great in every person, and someone else may be able to eat that protein bar and wear a CGM and not have the spike that I had. So different bars react differently in our bodies. But there are protein bars that just don't have that great of nutrition facts. They're basically nutritionally equivalent to a candy bar with some protein added in. And then there's also ones that taste kind of like a candy bar, but have decent macros. And then you want to explore kind of why does it taste like a candy bar, and look at some of that stuff. And it's not about fear shaming. It's really asking, what role is this food playing? Are you eating this food every single day because you think it's healthy and it's actually sabotaging you and you just didn't have the right information? Or are you kind of relying on convenience to eat? You're not currently taking the time to plan your meals or make a grocery list and really, most days have a game plan for getting whole foods into your diet. Are you replacing meals, 3 times a day, or are you just using it as a post-workout snack? So I think that those are all questions to ask. And then, like, what is it doing in your body versus someone else's body? Because we're all different. That's not the one I wanted to share. Okay, I wanted to show with you guys a couple of these examples. Is this the right one? Yeah. Okay, so this is a Cliff Builder bar. The flavor of this one is chocolate. Okay, actually, no, stop. We're going to go to the candy bar first. I have a Hershey's milk chocolate candy bar. Okay, and we're going to look at the nutrition facts. Can you guys see that okay? Gosh, I really can't because my screen's small. You make it bigger. Okay, so it says there's 5 servings per container. So this must be like a multi-pack. And one serving size is 1 bar. It's 43 grams. I don't know if y'all can see my cursor or not here, but we're just really going to look at like the sugar and stuff here. So total carbs is 20. Is that 6 or 8? 26 grams. Y'all are seeing my old lady vision taking effect. So 26 grams of carbs, and 25 grams of those carbs are sugar, and it's 21 grams of added sugar. So what added sugar means is exactly what it says. So some of the sugar is inherent to the ingredients in the bar. So I don't have the ingredient statement up, but knowing that it's a milk chocolate candy bar, it's probably natural sugar coming from the milk. And then they added like white sugar, like granulated sugar, into this bar to make it sweet because it's a candy bar, right? So we've got 21 grams of added sugars in this bar, 210 calories, 43 grams, 3 grams of protein. Again, that's probably coming from the milk because it's a milk chocolate candy bar, 13 grams of fat. Okay, memorize that. No, I'm kidding. We can totally look at it here in a second. Okay, so then let's look at the chocolate Cliff Builder bar next to that. That's even smaller. Can y'all see that? Let's see, maximize. There we go. Okay, so one bar is 68 grams. So it's larger than the Hershey bar. It's 280 calories, 9 grams of fat versus I think the candy bar had 11. 31 grams of carbs, so a little more carbohydrate, 3 grams of fiber. So that brings us down, to like 28 grams of carbs versus 26 in the candy bar. But y'all, we're still at 17 grams of added sugar in this Cliff Builder bar. And the Hershey's chocolate bar was 21 grams of added sugar. So you're not that much less added sugar, and you're actually a little lower fat, a little higher fiber. And then you've got some protein dumped in here, so that's kind of what I was talking about with that, where it's like, it's like a candy bar, but you're just adding protein in. And then let's look at the Gatorade protein bar here too. So one bar is 80 grams. So it's double the size of the Hershey candy bar, the Hershey chocolate bar. And we've got not quite double the calories, but more calories, same fat as the candy bar, 42 grams of carbs, less than 1 gram of fiber, 28 grams of total sugar with 27 grams of added sugar in this Gatorade protein bar, and then 20 grams of protein like the Cliff bar. So like this actually has more added sugar in it than a candy bar. And it is larger, like I said, but 28 grams of added sugar is quite a lot of sugar to be getting, especially if you are under the impression that it's a healthy food, right? That's supporting, it's like supporting your health goals. It's one thing, like if you're a professional athlete, you're a teenager who's just like burning energy and you're like exercising all the time, playing a bunch of sports. Maybe you need this many carbs. I would argue probably not that many added sugars in a bar. That's a lot. But I just wanted to share that because I don't think people realize. Did you guys know this? Is this stuff that you knew? Let me look at the comments. Archie Rose says meal preparation really needs to be my go-to. Lugnut says you look for the least amount of ingredients that you can afford. Can't afford a lot. Yeah, I get that. It's hard whenever your budget is that tight. Lugnut, do you ever use ChatGPT to help you plan? I'm curious if you ever use like AI and be like, this is my budget. These are my goals. What can I, give me some ideas. That would be a great use of AI actually. There's a tip for you there. Maybe you already do it. I'm curious if you do it, like what it recommends and if you find it helpful. So that's something that, protein bars as meal replacements. Then, like I said, there was that one, because I am a dietitian, I am looking at this stuff. I am more savvy than the average consumer. And I chose a bar that I thought, hey, is, pretty much probably fine. I've been eating it. I don't know. I pick up like 4 of them every 6 weeks. So maybe one a week, one every week and a half, for probably 6 months. It's like a white chocolate macadamia flavor, which is my favorite kind of cookie. And yeah, it like crazy spiked my blood sugar. So I wasn't expecting that. Let's see here. The next like healthy food that people tend to overconsume is something like an acai bowl or like a sugar-loaded smoothie, like a giant smoothie bowl, lots of fruit juice and granola and honey. I have a picture of one here for you guys too. Let's see. I'm just going to share. Boop, 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 boop. Let's see. So this is a Nutella bowl from Pliable, and it's not low calorie, right? It's 780 calories. That's, a pretty big meal. But if you look at the sugar, it's 57 grams of sugar in this thing. 7 grams of fiber, which is, pretty good, but only 11 grams of protein. I think it's 30 grams of fat. That must be from the Nutella. And so this is like a huge like sugar bomb. 118 grams of carbohydrates in this acai bowl. And people think it's, healthy, because I think women tend to be pretty guilty of this stuff. Like, we don't want to eat a real meal. We're just going to do, a toast and tea or a smoothie or, stuff like that. And it's not balanced with our macronutrients. So it, causes our blood sugar to go up. And then what we talked about last week is then by the time your body like cranks out enough insulin, then your insulin's way up. Remember, when your insulin's way up, you're not burning fat. And then there's so much insulin, finally it catches up and it captures all the blood sugar and escorts it where it needs to go. Then your blood sugar tanks. And then you're feeling shaky, you're feeling hangry. Remember, it's the Betty White Snickers commercial, and you are just reaching for anything that's within reach to grab and eat because you are hangry by that point. So it causes this like up down crash where you're, exhausted. Maybe you get a headache in the afternoon, you're tired, you've got to go lay down and take a nap. This bowl, it has the potential to do that kind of thing for you. You are getting, lots of good phytonutrients and micronutrients probably, but it's a huge sugar load. It's low on protein. And people like, I don't know anyone who's like, I'm going to go get an acai bowl for, and be indulgent. I think most of the time when people go get these kinds of bowls, first of all, they're super expensive. And second of all, they're trying to be healthy. But really, it may not be that great for you and for your blood sugar. So something to really consider, looking at the ingredients. Any kind of a smoothie or acai type thing that's sweetened with juice, like see if they'll swap it for water. Probably won't taste as good, but I actually did. I'm going to like reveal a little bit more information from the CGM. I was curious if my smoothies would spike my blood sugar, and it didn't. I was so happy to see that it was fine, but my smoothie looks very different than like probably the ingredients in this, right? It was like cherries, riced cauliflower, cocoa powders, cinnamon, chia seeds, and some protein powder and water. It tastes great. My kids love it. My 5-year-old asks for a smoothie like pretty much every day. So you can do a smoothie and not have it spike your blood sugar and have it help you reach your nutrition goals. But this is probably not the best way to do it. Like that says, he has not used AI for meal ideas. Go try it and let me know how it goes. Free resource. Ask it to give you specific examples. Don't be afraid to like refine it, right? And fine tune. That's a great starting place, but can you send me the list with, X? I need things that require, 10 minutes or less of preparation, or this is the equipment I have. The more information and tweaking you give AI, the better output it can give you. So try it and let me know. See if it gives any like packaged food options for you too that might be in budget. You can tell it where you shop. Send the website, Walmart or Aldi or wherever you shop, and it can maybe even scan for prices for you too. That'd be pretty cool. Okay, the next one on the list is greens powders. And I feel like these kind of had their moment. Are greens powders like AG1, are they still like really popular? I feel like they had their moment a few years ago. I do know people who still swear by them. They can be a supplement. I liken them to like a multivitamin. I think they're pretty expensive. I have a multivitamin that I really love, that I feel great on. My patients feel great on. that's like a third of the cost, if not less, probably less than a third of the cost of like a green powder. And the green powders, they kind of, and there's some capsules of it too, but they kind of advertise as if you can replace your vegetables with them. It's like, oh, take this and you don't have to eat spinach anymore. But it's not magic, and we've talked about like how complex food is before, and how there's so many micronutrients and phytonutrients and enzymes and things that we haven't even discovered yet. And you're missing all of that in a powder. You're missing things that we don't even know about that could be helping your body. And also, what's happening during processing? Are those nutrients still shelf stable? Are they able to go through whatever drying and heating process that they went through? A lot of the time, these companies are not super transparent with providing that information. It can be helpful. I have patients, like I said, who swear by them. They feel better on them. Great. If it's something you feel better on, you can afford, by all means, take it, but eat your vegetables too. Don't try and replace them with a powder. So, people are genuinely trying, I think, a lot of the time, but it can get really confusing. Okay, Lynette, I'm going to talk about your rice now before we move into our next segment. So you hear ups and downs about rice. Can I give you my opinion on it? So I'd be happy to. And if there's anything else specific outside of what I'm about to cover, drop it in the comments, and I'll speak to that as best as I can. So I think a few years ago, some studies were coming out about like arsenic in rice. Is that what you were talking about too? Let's see here. Was it? That's why I love having my computer. It was either white or brown that had more. So it says you can reduce arsenic by 40 to 60% by cooking rice in excess water. So 6 to 10 parts water to 1 part rice, and then draining the rest. Or by choosing basmati and jasmine varieties. So it was the white rice that has the less arsenic, and the brown rice tends to have the more. I couldn't remember. I was like, which one was which? Yeah. So it has the outer bran layer, which is brown, and that's where the arsenic is. And so with like the white rice, it's been removed. And so it's lower in arsenic. The hesitation though with the white rice is it's not a whole grain. That outer bran has been removed. And so it's more easy to digest and absorb it, which can cause your blood sugar to spike up. And so this is really a case-by-case basis. I think in some people, rice like just makes their blood sugar go crazy, where they can tolerate potatoes and pasta, but rice makes it spike. So I think if you have access to a CGM, I know you said like money can be tight sometimes, so that may not be a good fit for you, but if insurance would cover it, if you could get a doctor to write a prescription for a couple of weeks, it'd be a good experiment for you to run and see. Keeping in mind that portion size is important, keeping in mind that if you refrigerate rice, if you cool it, or potatoes, if you cook it and then cool it, it forms a resistant starch, which resists digestion, and feeds our good tummy bugs, our good microbiome in our gut, and causes us to not spike up our blood sugar quite so much. So if that's something that you deal with from rice, then that would be a way to kind of assuage it. And then, doing other things around rice if the blood sugar thing is an issue. So experiment with some vinegar. Try a salad with a vinegar and olive oil dressing before you eat the rice. See if that can help keep your blood sugar lower. Go take a walk, even 5 or 10 minutes after eating if you're able to. And that can help keep blood sugar stable as well. So yeah, it is easy to digest. It's low FODMAP. It, causes, a lot of people can handle rice, right? If they can't handle other things. And so, yeah, I think we eat rice. We don't eat it every single day. But I don't have a problem with it. My biggest question would be, hey, what is it doing to your blood sugar if your blood sugar is something of concern? Does that help? Yeah, Archie wrote arsenic is in rice. In organic arsenic, it absorbs it from soil. So that is my rice insight. If you have any other specific questions that I didn't cover, you're welcome to drop them in. I wanted to move into some wellness trends that tend to create anxiety. And we know that stress is not healthy. Stress creates a lot of other problems. And so it's really not great, but it's hard to not get stressed sometimes about some of these trends, right? If we're scrolling on the internet or social media and we're seeing these things that sound very scary, like the arsenic and rice thing. That was a huge thing. Like so many people stopped eating rice because of that. And it had been eaten for hundreds, if not thousands of years, probably thousands of years. So there is this kind of fear-based wellness culture that can create some ingredient paranoia. One that's really common right now is people being terrified of seed oils, or obsessing over every ingredient. I think that this like optimization, I was thinking through like, why do we like fixate on these ingredients versus just get back to the basics that have been shown time and time again to actually be effective. Whenever we think that we're like optimizing something, it's assuming we have the basics covered. So it makes us feel intelligent and ambitious, and we're going above and beyond. And consistency just can really feel ordinary, even though consistency is what actually works sometimes. And I think sometimes with this stuff, people are worrying about tiny details while skipping the basics entirely. And this goes back to that 80-20 principle where, people are worried about the 80% of things that are only going to give 20% of the results instead of the 20% of things that are going to give us the 80% of results. Karen was talking about that in her Hack Your Blood Sugar book. It was such a great example there. So some of these basic things that I talk about all the time, I sound like a broken record. I should just like record myself saying this and sit here and push play and point to it every week. Not really. I hope I don't sound like that. But these examples are sleeping poorly, not eating enough protein, skipping meals, being chronically stressed. But then what we might see is like people are doing all of these things, so they're not sleeping enough. They're, expecting their body to operate fine on 4 hours of sleep. They're not eating enough protein. They're, eating one meal a day or skipping meals. They're chronically stressed out without any release for that stress. We live a very fast-paced lifestyle. A lot of us do. And sometimes there's just not a whole lot we can do about that. But then trying to come down and decompress and let our bodies have that space to re-regulate, it's so important. So we're doing all of that stuff, but then we're panicking or obsessing over one restaurant meal cooked in canola oil, right? That's kind of what we're talking about here. Fear really tends to simplify decisions. It makes things black and white instead of nuanced. And the nuance can feel really overwhelming. So if someone says this ingredient is toxic, now everything feels clearer and more controllable. Oh, I just need to avoid this ingredient because it's toxic. Even if the actual issue is much broader and much more complex, like we just talked about with the rice, like it's easy to digest. A lot of people can tolerate it when they can't tolerate other foods. There is a blood sugar consideration. There is an arsenic consideration. So there's all of these different layers that need to be considered so that each person can make the best decision for them and for their health. But if we just have this overarching, this is toxic, it kind of creates fear and frustration with people. Oh gosh, Archie's trying to make a song for me. So the next one is timely because we've been talking about blood sugar and continuous glucose monitors. But people are freaking out about blood sugar spikes. Blood sugar and CGM is kind of a trending topic right now, as it very well should be. Finally, but people are freaking out because they ate an apple and saw their blood sugar go up. But that's normal. We aren't like completely flatlining our blood sugar here. We need to see context. We need to see trends, and not obsess over this. And there's like a real fear of fruit, right? People are scared to eat bananas or grapes or mangoes because they're high in sugar. It's become very controversial to eat fruit. But I don't think that you eating a banana is like the reason that you are struggling with whatever health issue that is a concern for you right now, right? Maybe if you're eating like 2 or 3 bananas and not enough protein and living a high stress life and not exercising, but you see that's compounded. If you have everything kind of buttoned up on the basics and you like to eat a banana, you're probably good, right? Um, so I think that's kind of a silly one, is people like avoiding fruit. Anytime anyone avoids like a whole food group that's not like heavily processed foods, if they're avoiding an entire food group that's, outside of religious reasons or like, true like allergy issues, I kind of tend to raise an eyebrow about it. Um, sometimes this wellness culture can also start looking suspiciously like diet culture. And this is a topic that I really want to talk about. It's near and dear to my heart. My sister actually, I don't think I've ever shared this with you guys. My sister actually suffered from an eating disorder whenever she was in high school. I was in college, so I was not home to see it day in and day out, but I was kind of an objective third party um, seeing it, and I know, then there's the whole like, have you guys, I have seen this on social media actually, like the Ozempic and GLP-1 thing is people are like, oh, the 90s, like scary skinny is back. And you see these celebrities who are just gaunt shadows of themselves, just like overdoing these health trends. And again, it's all about control at that point. It's not even about health or the food. It's about control and trying to manipulate what we're putting in our bodies, to have some feeling of control over our lives. And sometimes this wellness culture starts kind of looking like that diet culture in disguise, like I said. So this can be the GLP-1s, even like, oh, I'm not on a GLP-1 for weight loss. I'm on it at a micro dose to reduce inflammation, which there is some research and some people do feel better on it. But if they're continuing to lose weight and get thinner and thinner, and they're missing out on actual nutrients that their body needs to function, that's a concern. Other examples are these detox teas or a 3-day cleanse or, stuff like that is, maybe it is healthy, and you are trying to like focus on cellular health and stuff, but maybe it's also kind of diet culture in disguise, and it's kind of being presented in a way of giving you control over how your body looks in an unhealthy way. Does that make sense to you guys? Kind of trying to tread a little bit lightly on that topic, but it gets scary. Be careful, take care of yourself. Food sensitivity tests, eliminating 30 different foods with no reintroduction plan. This is another like health trend gone scary that I have seen in real life in my practice, where people come to me and they're like, I can eat 3 foods and that's it. There's no, I did a food sensitivity test with another provider 5 years ago. I eliminated a ton of food. I felt better, but then over time my symptoms started coming back. And so I started eliminating more and more foods. And now there's only a handful of things I can eat. Talk about anxiety and fear, like skyrocketing through the roof, right? With that, the restriction starts to kind of spiral and people end up really scared, because they don't know what to do from there. What worked in the past is working, but the levers that they have to pull and the tools in their toolbox are literally getting less and less because they're cutting more and more foods out and there's less things that they can do. And then they're scared that their symptoms are going to come back and all of that. And so that's another, kind of scary, slippery slope that I've seen people go down. And then I'm going to just share two more. So the next one is aggressive fasting. We talked about fasting a little bit. We have on several shows, and fasting is something that I use in my practice sometimes with the right person who does not have a history of an eating disorder, who does not have a history of disordered eating or any current concern around any of that. But also in a person who has the basics down, right? They're not skipping meals because it's inconvenient to eat or they failed to plan their meal. That's not the kind of person that we want to introduce fasting with. We want to introduce fasting with someone who is eating consistently, they're eating well, they are exercising, they're resting well, they're managing their stress. They have those foundational pieces down. And the fasting piece truly is kind of an optimization. If you add in fasting to a person's life who is highly stressed out, they're not sleeping and they're not getting enough nourishment, it's going to backfire most of the time, especially in women. Women's hormones are a little bit more touchy, especially premenopausal women. It can really backfire and cause more harm than good. So just be careful, with fasting. Make sure you're doing it with someone who knows what they're doing if that's something you want to mess around with. And it can be great. Like it can be really great for someone with blood sugar issues who aren't seeing the needle move with other things, with weight loss resistance, who are doing all the things, but not seeing the scale move. It can be great cellular rejuvenation, autophagy. So where you're killing off those aged cells, those aged mitochondria. It's kind of like if you have flowers and you go deadhead them, right? So you have roses or a hydrangea or marigold or petunias, and you pull off or trim off the wilted flower head because it stimulates the plant to stop putting energy into that dying or dead head and go put energy into making a new flower. Same concept with autophagy, right? So fasting encourages the body to go kill off those aged cells and go make new ones, those aged mitochondria, and go make new ones. So it can be great for that stuff. So those are some of the benefits. But like I said, it can backfire. So you just got to be a little bit careful. Then the last wellness trend that I see kind of stimulating fear or confusion, or I don't want to say obsessive, but I'm going to say obsessive tendencies where it's like all you're thinking about is like hormone balancing things, right? How vague and generalized is that? Hormone balance. I need to balance my hormones, but nobody really knows what exactly that means. This may be in the form of a powder, a mocktail, expensive supplements. People are trying to sell you something with most of these things, right? And so here's an example of some of these adrenal cocktails. Let's see here. Adrenal cocktails. Where, it's normally like an electrolyte powder type of thing, which can help with hydration, and potassium helps with hormone signaling. But again, if you're stressed, if you're not getting the nutrients you need from food, if you're not sleeping well, these just aren't going to do that much to balance your hormones. There's so many more things that you can do with less effort, less expense. You're going to have a much higher payoff when it comes to doing the hormone balancing. So those were some of the trends I've seen, whether they are people think they're healthy and they're just actually not, Or, people think that they're healthy or they're going to move the needle for them. And oftentimes it just results in people being more scared or stressed, which we know is not great. So if you were surprised by any of these, write it in the comments. If you have, like I said earlier, another one, and feel free to write that in the comments too. If you want me to review it, even after the show's over, like comment, try and tag me, and we'll make sure we get you an answer back. I want to talk about, Lugnut had one more question. So I grab a bag of chips. Calories are always 140 to 160. If I look at Quest chips or a Cliff Bar, it has 280 calories. I just don't understand. Okay, let me help you break this down. So this is the Cliff Bar nutrition facts. Oh, what did I do? Hang on. Here we go. There we go. So this was the Cliff Bar, and the answer is in the gram serving size. So the Cliff Bar is 68 grams. And the bag of chips, like the 140 to 160 calorie bag of chips, is going to be 28 grams or 1 ounce. And so this is double the calories because it's double the weight. And if you're looking at like total fat, total carbs, total protein, the protein, let's see, let me get my calculator out here. 20 times 4 is 80 calories. So 80 calories of this Cliff Bar is coming from this protein. Those potato chips don't have, maybe they have like 1 gram of protein in them. So that's where you're getting some extra calories. There's 20 extra grams in here that are adding to this total gram in the bar and adding the calories. Does that make sense, Lugnut? I don't know if you're still here or not. But that's why it is. The bar actually weighs more than the chips. It's a larger portion of food. So 80 of those calories is coming from protein. I don't remember how many carbs are in a bag of potato chips. Let me look it up here. Let's see here. You said that makes sense. Good. So they have 10 grams of fat, so about the same as this Cliff Bar, 15 grams of carbs, so half the grams of carbs. So there's 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate. So that's 64. So that probably gets us, that's really close. That's like 120 more calories. So it's coming from more carbs and more protein, leading to a heavier weight of the Cliff Bar. Does that make sense? You said it made sense. So cool. Good question. I like questions that I can answer pretty easily. Not every question is that easy for me, because I did that. That was my job for a while. So people get confused because the internet really rewards extremes, and we get a lot of our information from the internet, right? Bo, my 5-year-old, will say something random. He's like, "Did you know that?" And I'm like, I actually did not know that. Where did you learn this from? He said something the other day. And he's like, YouTube. I was like, great. It was a cool fact. I don't remember what it was, but it was something I hadn't heard before, and he got it from YouTube. So we get a lot of information from the internet. The internet rewards extremes. Me and Kevin go head to head on this because I'm not an extreme person. I'm very nuanced. But whenever we're on YouTube trying to get clicks and subscribers, you've got to be a little more extreme just to stand out, right? But things like being really nuanced doesn't go viral. Fear sells, certainty sells, extremes get attention, to really, draw people in. No one goes viral for saying it depends, which is really unfortunate news for me, because maybe that's my favorite 2 words to say. And so we have, like I said, people seek these people out because the world feels overwhelming and out of control. And it's like, oh, if I just do this, it'll work. And that's all I have to do. And they did it, so I can do it. And it's just not always as simple as that, but there's just really, really strong connection there with like wanting an answer, wanting a simple answer. Um, so what actually matters most to cue my song around, we've got to be consistent. You've got to this is a great one, you guys. Actually, I'm going to share my QR code here. Let's see. Maybe, where did I put it? Okay, there's my QR code. What matters most? If you scan this QR code that's up on the screen right now, it will sign you up for my email list. I'm really bad about sending emails. I don't think I've sent one in 6 weeks because I'm the bottleneck in my business. I'm too busy taking care of patients, taking care of Haley, and taking care of my kids. And I do post on social media. When I send emails, it's normally free recipes for you guys. It's the link to an episode that I thought was really awesome, but it's not going to be like flooding your inbox, is what I'm trying to tell you with this. But when you sign up, you get my What is Healthy Eating cheat sheet for free download. It's everything Haley and I went through a few weeks ago whenever we were looking through Keith's food journal. We kind of like, after that conversation, Haley was like, you need to make a handout that goes through this because I have people ask me all the time. And at first we were like wanting to call it, what do dietitians look for when reviewing patients' food logs? So it can kind of be interchangeable with that. Like, what is healthy eating? What are dietitians actually looking for when we're looking at our patients' food logs, food journals? It's all in that handout. You can get it free at this QR code. So make sure you go scan that. And so it's really talking about being consistent, getting the right amount of protein in for you. Protein's a hot topic. What's the right amount for you? That's what we help our patients with every single day. It's figuring that out. It depends on how you're digesting your food, what your hormones are doing, what your goals are, what stage of life you're in, how much fiber are you getting? How much fiber do you need? Meal timing. What does your sleep look like? What does your stress look like? How flexible are you? Are you able to kind of roll with the punches? Or are you like escalating, your emotions throughout the day because you're stressed out and all of that all the time? All of these things to eat well consistently and do these consistent basics are so much more simple, but more challenging in some ways than buying a supplement, right? Eating well consistently and taking care of your health requires some level of emotional regulation that a lot of us don't have the capacity to do a lot of the time. It requires planning, self awareness, delayed gratification. Who likes that? Who likes delayed gratification? Nobody. Nobody these days. But it requires that. It requires stress tolerance, flexibility, like I mentioned. But clicking buy on a Facebook ad or on an Instagram ad to get a supplement or a greens powder or a gadget requires almost no emotional work. Sometimes those things help get some emotional buy-in with our patients. They can feel like a quick win. And so I'm not opposed to using them as kind of a dirty cheat trick sometimes in order to get to those basics, right? Sometimes we need to use those things as a quick tool. But buying those things and just expecting them to do all the heavy lifting for you are going to be disappointing all the time. And it's not you being lazy necessarily. It is just that humans really biologically crave maximum reward for minimum discomfort. We do not like being uncomfortable, but ultimately being uncomfortable and stepping out of that comfort zone is what leads to growth and positive change. And so, I think it's something to consider and reflect on if you are stepping out of your comfort zone to grow and emotionally regulate in a different way so that you can make some of these changes. And if not, that's something that Haley and I can help you guys work through too. So Your body really wants stability and nourishment far more than perfection. And this is what I'm going to kind of close with. There is no perfect on this earth. We have said this before. Don't try to create it with your body or with your health or with your lab results. The healthiest people I know are not obsessing over their food all day. They're being intentional and they're being consistent, but they're not freaking out because they grabbed a hot dog at a baseball game with their kids. That's part of living with freedom. It is. And most of the healthy people that I know um, eat the way they eat 90% of the time so that they're able to go on all of the adventures that they want to go on, right? We don't want a prison of health rules. I don't think anyone truly wants that. If you have a prison of health rules, a lot of the time it's because you're scared, right? So if nutrition has started feeling stressful or overwhelming, if you've recognized yourself in doing some of those trends that I laid out for you guys, I just want you to know it doesn't have to be that way. At Nourish and Thrive, we really want to help you simplify things, cut through all of the noise, and understand what your body actually needs to get the results that you want. So you guys can find me on Instagram, sign up for my email list. If you hit reply to any of my emails that you get, it comes straight to me. I will respond to your message. But I'd be happy to talk with you about anything that you have that you need. So that's all I've got for you guys. I'm glad you were here. Make sure you go like this episode, subscribe to our channel, and share this episode with 2 people who've come to you showing you crazy health and wellness and nutrition trends in the last couple of months. Say, you got to watch this. Or maybe they showed you one of the things I talked about tonight. Or maybe they're eating their like Gatorade protein bar every day. And you're like, ooh, you need to see this. Share it with someone who needs to see it. And we will see you guys same time, same place next week. Thanks.